golden lights of the luxurious Le Soleil restaurant reflected off the crystal chandeliers, creating an atmosphere of wealth and exclusivity. Nathan Carter, a prominent real estate investor in Los Angeles, adjusted his cufflinks with practiced ease. Everything about Nathan, his tailored suit, the expensive watch on his wrist, the way he leaned back in his chair, existed confidence and control. Across from him, Sophia Blake, his glamorous new girlfriend and a rising star in the modeling world, smiled as she twirled the stem of her wine glass. "I still can't believe you got us a table here," Sophia purred, her voice dripping with charm. "The waitlist is impossible." Nathan offered a modest shrug. "It's all about knowing the right people." He didn't mention the substantial donation he'd made to the restaurant's charity partner to secure their reservation. For Nathan, appearances were everything, and tonight was just another calculated move in his carefully curated life. As Sophia began talking about an upcoming photo shoot in Paris, Nathan's attention wavered. He glanced across the room and froze. A familiar face caught his eye. A waitress, her dark hair tied neatly back, moved gracefully between tables. Her uniform was crisp, but her tired eyes told another story. It was Amelia Rivera, his ex-wife. Nathan's breath caught. It had been nearly a year since their divorce, and this was the last place he expected to see her. The once proud attorney who had fiercely debated corporate law in courtrooms now carried trays of food. But what struck Nathan the most was the subtle curve of her stomach beneath her uniform. Amelia was pregnant. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. He couldn't look away, his mind racing with questions. How had her life come to this? And why hadn't she told him? 3 years ago, Nathan Carter was a man on the rise, celebrated in Los Angeles for his sharp instincts in the real estate market. At a gala auction benefiting housing reform, he met Amelia Rivera, a passionate attorney known for her relentless advocacy for underprivileged tenants. While Nathan saw the world through the lens of profit margins and investments, Amelia fought for justice, determined to give a voice to those silenced by power and wealth. Their connection was instant. Amelia admired Nathan's charisma and drive, while he was captivated by her intelligence and unshakable moral compass. Within a year, they were married, their union celebrated in magazines and society columns as a power couple destined for greatness. But behind the glittering facade, cracks began to form. Nathan's world revolved around expansion, acquiring properties, making high-profitable deals, and navigating the elite circles of Los Angeles. Amelia, on the other hand, believed in fighting the very forces Nathan represented: gentrification, displacement, and corporate greed. While Nathan closed deals that turned low-income housing into luxury condos, Amelia was in courtrooms, defending families being evicted from those same buildings. Their ideological differences led to heated arguments. Nathan dismissed Amelia's concerns as idealistic and impractical, while she accused him of profiting off the suffering of others. The breaking point came 2 years into their marriage, when Amelia's law firm took on a case involving a major eviction scandal. The developer behind it was a close associate of Nathan's, and he had invested heavily in the project. When Amelia discovered Nathan's involvement, she confronted him. "How can you be a part of this?" she demanded, tears in her eyes. "They're forcing families out of their homes." "It's just business, Amelia," Nathan replied, his tone defensive. "If I don't invest, someone else will. You can't fight the entire system." "I don't need you to fight the system," Amelia shot back. "I needed you to stand with me, just this once." The argument ended with Amelia leaving their shared penthouse, unable to reconcile the person she'd fallen in love with and the man Nathan had become. Their divorce was finalized months later, with both retreating into their separate worlds, Nathan climbing higher in his industry, and Amelia quietly fading from public view. Half a year after divorce, Nathan occasionally wondered about Amelia. He saw her name mentioned in a few articles about legal aid projects, but he assumed she was moving on, just as he had. He buried himself in his work and his budding relationship with Sophia, a socialite who fit seamlessly into his high-profile life. But Amelia's life had taken a darker turn. After leaving Nathan, her law firm downsized during a merger and she was laid off. Unable to find stable work due to her outspokenness during the eviction scandal, Amelia was forced to take on temporary jobs to make ends meet. Despite the setbacks, she remained proud, refusing to reach out to Nathan or accept help. The last time she saw him was on the cover of a magazine, arm in arm with Sophia at an exclusive gala. For Amelia, it confirmed what she had feared all along. Nathan had chosen wealth and status over her. Now, standing in the middle of the restaurant, carrying plates of food, Amelia felt the weight of his gaze on her. She didn't falter. She had no choice but to keep moving. For Nathan, the sight of Amelia now, pregnant and struggling, shattered the carefully constructed narrative he'd built for himself. He couldn't ignore the questions clawing at him. Had he failed her? Had he abandoned her when she needed him most? And most pressing of all, was the child she carried his? Nathan sat frozen in his chair, his gaze fixed on Amelia as she navigated the dining room. She moved with practiced grace, balancing plates and glasses with ease, but he could see the wariness in her posture. Despite everything, there was an unmistakable dignity about her, a quiet strength that reminded him of the woman he had fallen in love with. "Nathan?" Sophia's voice broke through his thoughts. She leaned forward, her manicured fingers brushing his arm. "Are you even listening? I was talking about Paris." He blinked, forcing a polite smile. "Sorry, just distracted." Sophia followed his line of sight and spotted Amelia. Her eyes narrowed. "Isn't that your ex-wife?" "Yes," Nathan admitted, his voice tight. Sophia tilted her head, studying Amelia. "She looks different. She's pregnant?" "It appears so," Nathan replied, swallowing the lump in his throat. "Is it yours?" Sophia's question was blunt, her tone more curious than concerned. "I don't know," Nathan admitted, his voice barely audible. The words felt heavy on his tongue, laden with guilt. Sophia's expression hardened. "Well, if it is, you'd better handle it, quietly. The last thing you need is a scandal." Nathan barely heard her. His mind was spinning, replaying every memory of his time with Amelia. He thought of their final argument, the anger in her voice, the pain in her eyes when she realized he had chosen his career over their marriage. He had convinced himself he was doing the practical thing, the mature thing. But now, seeing her like this, he wasn't so sure. He excused himself from the table, muttering something about needing air. Outside, the cool Los Angeles night did little to calm his racing thoughts. The memory of Amelia's face, her eyes meeting his for that brief, charged moment, wouldn't leave him. He pulled out his phone, his thumb hovering over her name in his contacts. He hadn't called her in over a year, hadn't even thought to check on her. What would I even say, he wondered. Instead, he searched her name online. The articles about her legal work had stopped months ago. A brief mention in a local paper revealed the law firm's downsizing and Amelia's layoff. He kept scrolling, finding nothing else of significance. The realization hit him like a punch. She had disappeared, slipping out of the circles they once shared. When Nathan returned to the table, Sophia's mood had soured. "You're being very strange tonight," she remarked, her tone edged with irritation. "If this is about your ex, you need to let it go. She's not your responsibility anymore." But the more Sophia spoke, the more Nathan felt the walls of his carefully constructed life closing in. The perfectly curated dates, the high-profile deals, the endless cycle of social engagements. It all felt hollow. That night, back in his luxury apartment, Nathan couldn't sleep. He paced the marble floors, his mind haunted by questions. Was the baby his? How had Amelia ended up working as a waitress, and why hadn't she reached out to him? The next morning, Nathan made a decision. He needed answers. Nathan started with small steps. He called a private investigator to gather information about Amelia's current situation. What he discovered left him reeling. Amelia was living in a small apartment in a less than desirable part of the city. She had been juggling multiple part-time jobs to stay afloat. And the child she was carrying? There was a strong possibility it was his. As Nathan processed the information, a wave of guilt crashed over him. He had been so consumed with his own life, his own ambitions, that he had completely abandoned the person who once meant everything to him. When his investigator handed him a photo of Amelia leaving a prenatal clinic, her hand protectively cradling her stomach, something inside Nathan shifted. For the first time in years, he questioned everything he had prioritized. Wealth, status, appearances. None of it seemed to matter anymore. He realized he didn't just want answers. He wanted to make things right. Nathan sat in his car, parked across the street from Amelia's small apartment. The building was old and worn, a stark contrast to the sleek high-rise they had once shared. He hesitated, his fingers gripping the steering wheel as doubt crept in. What if she doesn't want to see me? What if I'm too late to fix this? Shaking off his fear, Nathan stepped out of the car and approached the door. The faint sound of jazz music floated through a window. He knocked and waited, his heart pounding in his chest. Amelia opened the door cautiously, her expression shifting from surprise to guarded curiosity. "Nathan?" Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of emotion, pain, exhaustion, and something else he couldn't quite place. "Amelia," he said, his voice softer than he intended. "Can we talk?" She hesitated for a moment before stepping aside. The apartment was small but tidy, with a few personal touches that hinted at the life she was trying to rebuild. A stack of law books sat on the coffee table alongside a baby name book. Nathan took a seat, unsure of how to begin. I didn't know. About the baby, about what happened to you after the firm downsized." Amelia crossed her arms, leaning against the counter. "You didn't know because you didn't ask, Nathan. You moved on. Why does it matter now?" Her words cut deep, but Nathan didn't flinch. "Because I was wrong," he admitted, his voice tinged with regret. "I should have been there for you, even after the divorce. I let you face everything alone, and that was cowardly of me." Amelia's expression softened slightly, but her guard remained up. "It's not just about me, Nathan. It's about this baby. If you're here out of guilt, I don't want your money or your pity." Nathan leaned forward, his tone earnest. "This isn't about guilt. It's about doing what's right. I want to help, not just financially, but however you'll let me. Doctor's appointments, preparing for the baby, anything. Just let me be there." Amelia studied him for a long moment. "You don't get to waltz back into my life and fix everything with money or good intentions. If you're serious, you'll have to prove it." "I will," Nathan promised. "Whatever it takes." Nathan's first step was discreetly ensuring that Amelia's medical bills were covered. He contacted her clinic anonymously, setting up a fund to handle all expenses. Then he turned his attention to the past. With the help of his legal team, Nathan began digging into the circumstances of Amelia's dismissal from the law firm. What he found enraged him. Emails and records revealed that her termination had been orchestrated by a rival developer, the Bennetts, who saw Amelia's advocacy as a threat to their business. Nathan realized the same family had been quietly sabotaging his own real estate deals, leveraging their influence to push him out. As the pieces came together, Nathan knew what he had to do: expose the Bennetts and make amends to Amelia, not just with words, but with actions. The conference room at the Bennetts' downtown office was as imposing as the family itself, sleek, modern, and designed to intimidate. But Nathan Carter wasn't here to back down. Armed with a thick folder of evidence and accompanied by his attorney, he was ready to confront the people who had manipulated and destroyed lives for their own gain. Across the table, Victor Bennett, the patriarch of the family, leaned back with a smug expression. His daughter, Vanessa Bennett, who had been a key player in Amelia's downfall, regarded Nathan with thinly veiled disdain. "What exactly do you hope to accomplish here, Carter?" Victor drawled. "This little stunt won't get you your deals back." Nathan's gaze was steady. "I'm not here for the deals. I'm here to expose the truth." He laid out the evidence. Emails detailing the Bennett's plans to discredit Amelia during the law firm's merger, financial records proving they had bribed key decision-makers, and documentation of their systematic efforts to sabotage both Amelia's career and Nathan's projects. Vanessa's calm facade cracked. "This is baseless. No one will believe you." "Oh, they will," Nathan countered, his voice firm. "Because I've already sent copies of this evidence to the State Attorney General, the SEC, and every major news outlet. By tomorrow, everyone will know what you've done, not just to me, but to countless others." Victor's smirk vanished. "You're making a mistake, Carter. You'll regret this." Nathan leaned forward. "The only mistake I made was letting people like you get away with it for so long, but that ends now." Later that evening, Nathan met Amelia at the coffee shop near her apartment. She had just returned from a prenatal appointment and looked wary but curious. "It's done," Nathan told her, his voice steady. "The Bennetts are finished. The SEC is launching an investigation, and their influence is crumbling." Amelia's eyes widened. "You actually did it?" "For you," Nathan admitted, "and for everyone else they've hurt. I owed you that." Amelia looked at him for a long moment, the walls she had built around herself beginning to lower. "Maybe you're not the same man I left after all." Nathan smiled faintly. "I'm trying to be better. For you, and for the baby." Amelia nodded. "We'll see." As they walked out into the crisp evening air, Nathan glanced at her, his voice soft. "Have you thought of a name yet?" She smiled for the first time in weeks, her hand resting on her belly. "Lucas. I think Lucas Rivera Carter has a nice ring to it." For the first time in years, Nathan felt a sense of hope. A soft winter sun lit the streets of Los Angeles as Nathan pulled his car up to Amelia's new apartment complex. It wasn't the cramped building she had struggled in for months, but a quiet, secure place with more space. An apartment Nathan had arranged, but insisted be listed under her name. Amelia stood on the steps, cradling baby Lucas in her arms. He was only a few weeks old, but his dark eyes were alert, taking in the world with a quiet curiosity. Nathan stepped out of the car, his gaze softening at the sight of them. "Is getting bigger already," Nathan said as he approached, reaching out carefully to brush Lucas's tiny hand. The baby gripped his finger, and Nathan smiled. A rare, genuine smile that Amelia hadn't seen in years. "Growing every day," Amelia replied. Her tone was lighter than it had been in months, though a guarded edge still lingered. Nathan took a deep breath, shoving his hands into his coat pockets. "I wanted to talk to you about something. I've been restructuring my company, changing how we do business." Amelia raised an eyebrow. "Restructuring? We're converting into a public benefit corporation," Nathan explained, "focused on ethical development, building housing that actually helps communities instead of displacing them. It's long overdue." Amelia studied him, the sincerity in his voice catching her off guard. "That's impressive. Unexpected, but impressive." "It's inspired by you," Nathan admitted. "Everything you stood for. I want Lucas to grow up proud of what we've built, for him to know that doing the right thing matters more than profits." Amelia looked at him for a long moment, then glanced down at Lucas, who had drifted off to sleep in her arms. "I'm not ready to forget everything that happened," she said quietly. "But maybe we can start over, not as a couple, but as co-parents. For Lucas." Nathan nodded, a weight lifting from his shoulders. "That's all I've ever wanted." As they walked toward the apartment together, the sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting a golden glow over the city. It wasn't the ending Nathan had imagined, but it was the one that mattered. A new beginning for them and, most importantly, for Lucas.